Welcome to the Explainer. All right, today we're diving into a question that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, but it's one that top philosophers and physicists are debating like right now. So let's just put it out there. Are we living in a computer simulation? I know, it totally sounds like the plot of The Matrix, right? But this is actually a serious hypothesis, and it's got some surprisingly solid arguments behind it. We're going to break it all down. So, this whole debate really exploded back in 2003. A philosopher named Nick Bostrom published this paper that wasn't just some wild guess. Oh no, it was this really sharp, really elegant logical puzzle. Now, here's the thing about Bostrom's argument. He's not saying we are definitely in a simulation. What he's saying is that logic kind of forces us into a corner. We have to accept that one of three very specific possibilities is true. And it all hinges on this idea of a future post-human civilization. Think our distant, super advanced descendants with unbelievable computing power, deciding to run simulations of their ancestors. And, well, that could be us. This right here is Bostrom's famous trilemma. He says one of these three things has to be true. Okay, so number one, we go extinct. Humanity just never reaches that super advanced stage. Game over for us. Number two, we do get super advanced, but for some reason, none of those future civilizations have any interest in simulating the past. Maybe it's unethical, maybe it's just boring to them. Or there's option three, and this is the one that'll mess with your head. If the first two are false, then it means advanced civilizations will create simulations, and they'll create tons of them. So many, in fact, that the number of simulated people would just completely dwarf the number of real people, which means, just by sheer probability, we're almost certainly one of them. Okay, so that's the philosophical side. It's pretty tight, logically. But what happens when you run this idea up against the cold, hard laws of physics? This is where a pretty powerful counter-argument starts to take shape. An astrophysicist named Franco Vazza looked into this, and he started with a really basic concept from thermodynamics. You can't just create a simulation out of nothing. Information is a physical thing. Every single bit of data takes actual energy to store and to process. It has to follow the rules. So just how much energy are we talking about? Well, to simulate our entire visible universe down to the absolute tiniest possible level, the Planck scale would take 8.9 times 10 to the 108th power ergs of energy. And that's not even to run the thing. That's just to store the information for the very first instant. It's a truly insane number. And this is where the whole idea hits a wall. You just cannot simulate a universe using a computer that's inside that same universe, if the computer needs more energy than the entire universe actually has. It's like trying to build a car using only the parts you find in the glove compartment. It just doesn't work. And even if you think, okay, let's scale it back, forget the universe, what about just Earth? Well, the numbers are still just staggering. To simulate just our planet at full resolution would take about the same amount of energy you'd need to completely rip the Milky Way galaxy apart and send all of its stars flying off into space. So, the physics-based conclusion is pretty clear. A scenario where future humans in our own universe are simulating us is basically impossible. It's off the table. The only way it could work is if the universe running the simulation has totally different, much more generous laws of physics than ours does. But the debate doesn't stop with physics. Nope. There's another really cool challenge to Bostrom's argument. And this one doesn't come from energy. It comes from the world of statistics and probability. So this astronomer, David Kipping, he looked at this whole thing and decided it wasn't a physics problem, it was a betting problem. He used a really clever method called Bayesian analysis, which is just a powerful way of figuring out the odds of something when you're dealing with a lot of unknowns. Kipping took Bostrom's three options and simplified them into just two main possibilities. Either we live in base reality, which covers us going extinct or just losing interest, or we live in a simulation. And when he ran the numbers with his Bayesian logic, the odds came out to be, well, pretty much a 50-50 coin toss, as you can see here. But, and this is a huge but, Kipping's analysis has a massive twist. He says if we ever manage to create a conscious simulation ourselves, everything changes. That one act would be the first real piece of evidence that it's even possible. And the moment that happens, the odds would just instantly flip, and it would become way, way more likely that we're a simulation too. So we have these complex arguments, and the odds are kind of hovering around a coin toss. But let's just go with it for a minute. Let's say we are in a simulation. What would that actually look like? What would it feel like for us on the inside? MIT's Rizwan Virk suggests we think about it like a video game. In this kind of model, we could either be NPCs, non-player characters, where our consciousness is just part of the game's code, or we could be RPG players, where our true consciousness is outside the game and we're just visiting this reality. And in that case, what we call death might really just be logging out. Virk also theorizes that maybe the simulator isn't just running one universe, but countless parallel ones, all at the same time. And this isn't just for fun. It's a kind of evolutionary computing. The simulator runs all these different timelines to search for the best possible outcomes, keeping the good ones and just deleting the rest. It's a huge cosmic search for a perfect reality. Okay, so we have been through the logic, the physics, the probabilities. After all of that, what's the actual takeaway from this massive cosmic thought experiment?
You know, what's really amazing is that all the experts, no matter their conclusion, they all kind of end up in the same place. Whether it's Bostrom saying we might be in a sim, Vaza saying physics makes it impossible, or Kipping saying it's 50-50, their advice is exactly the same. Don't panic. Our best bet is to just keep studying the universe we see around us, whatever its true nature might be.
And maybe that's the real point here. The whole hypothesis is valuable not because it gives us an answer, but because it's a powerful tool. It forces us to really think about our most basic assumptions about reality, about consciousness, and, our place in the cosmos. This quote from AI researcher Ben Gritzel just captures the whole spirit of this perfectly. The simulation idea, it's just a stepping stone. It's a way for our brains to even begin to grasp that the real truth of things might be so much stranger than we can even conceive of right now. So in the end, maybe the most important question isn't just whether we live in a simulation. Maybe it's a prompt for a bigger question. If this reality isn't what it seems on the surface, then what other profound, crazier truths about our existence are just out there, waiting for us to discover them? Thanks for watching.